Hey, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, rather than make another video, although I will end up making another video about relationships, meeting the right one, and so on, how it affected me. No, it's not. There's no silver bullet, you know. Nobody can say, "Oh, well, I did this, so if you do that, everything will be just great." So that's another video. But what I thought was one of the biggest issues that anybody has about coming to live in the Philippines is, what's the risk? How wrong can it all go? Can it all go terribly wrong? And the answer is, it can all go terribly wrong wherever you live. There is no safe place ever to live. There's no totally safe place. The only totally safe place is in a box 6 feet under. And not too many people are trying that as a solution to unhappiness. Well, maybe more nowadays in the pandemic than we care to discuss. But look, so let's say that you need some encouragement to risk everything, because that's literally what you are doing when you come here. Especially if you haven't been to the Philippines. I'd been to the Philippines. I'd spent quite a few months here many years ago, in the days of Marcos, when it was martial law. I didn't notice it, and it didn't affect me. Didn't seem to affect life in the Philippines. I was in San Fernando, and I travelled around the Philippines without having any difficulty at all. Not quite so many civilian foreigners back then, but anyway, I did okay. I wasn't married to the Filipina at the time, but later we did get married. It didn't work out. Now, I've been through. When you're talking about, well, should I risk everything? It depends what you consider is everything. Now, I've lost everything several times, believe me. I'm a past master at losing everything. The only thing that you don't lose in all of it is the experience, because if you treat it as a lesson, even if it's a lesson hard learned, then you will get something out of it. That's why they call it, when they talk about university, people say, yeah, I went to the university of hard knocks, of life, of how everything will either come together and give you an incredibly successful, wealthy, happy life, or it will kick the guts out of you and leave you with nothing. And between those two places is where most people are. When I decided that I needed to do something, that was what I decided. Well, hell, I need to do something. I wonder why I would do that. Well, I had a broken marriage. Marriage had not worked out. I put everything into that, actually. Not going to do any bad mouthing. We get what we plan internally, mentally, in the heart and the mind. And as we think in images which are formed the basis of plans for the future, that's the future that we get. And there's no blaming anybody else for that. If you constantly think about failure, if you constantly think about how badly it can all go wrong, you will soon find out how badly it can all go wrong. Well, it had all gone pretty well wrong for me when I decided that I would come. I'd lost my house, so I was about to be homeless. That was in the real estate crash, which was what, 8 or 9, 10 years ago now. I got married. It didn't work out. It was a catastrophe. two people who were probably wonderful for others, not so good for themselves, for each other. So I lost the house, lost the wife, I lost the work because the work just dried up. And just on the kindness of a friend who had a warehouse come art gallery, which was how I knew him, he offered me a place to stay, and I stayed in a warehouse which people in Fort Myers will know very well, what is probably now the old library in Fort Myers. There is a multicolored, well, used to be, haven't heard from him for a while, but there used to be a multicolored warehouse next to the library, and it was owned by an unusual person, Larry. Larry turned out to be my saviour, and I turned out to be very beneficial for him. I went and I did a great deal of work on his place. I remodeled all the kitchen and did a lot of work. It worked out very well for both of us, and he still actually has a lot of my artwork there, because when I was going, what I couldn't get rid of, I gave to Larry and asked him to keep. So he has some favourite pieces of my artwork there, which I would love to be able to have here, and probably never will. So I had no savings, no work, but I did have a pension. I had a pension from the US, as I've explained on many occasions, and I had a very modest, painfully modest pension from the UK. So I had enough to be able to get along. Now, this is possibly the position that you might find yourself in when you consider coming to the Philippines. Now, some people that write to me that I'm in good communication with have not actually been to the Philippines, and they're unable to take the advice that I always give. Come, just get out here and have a look at the place yourself. Everything is done face to face here, so you need to come out and take a chance. If you can, ideal scene would be come out for a month, look around. Don't give everybody your opinion. I always say, a little brutally, I admit, keep your mouth shut and your ears and your eyes open and just look at how things are done. Everything from the terrible driving to the wonderful smiles that you get wherever you go. I went today to pick up some materials from the warehouse, and when I got there I was looking around for some string, because I bought some mouldings which were 12 feet long, put them on the back of the truck, and I was looking around for something to tie on the end of the pieces of moulding. 6 pieces of moulding which were only like this, so they're hanging right out over the top, and I'm looking around for a piece of string and something to tie on there. And when I came back, a man who was actually, it turned out, a tricycle driver just standing by waiting for somebody, and he saw what I needed and he'd done it for me. He found a piece of yellow coloured tape, and he pulled the moulding down because it's all bendy, tied it on the end for me and stepped back without saying anything. Then I didn't know who he was. I only realised when I got into the truck that he was a tricycle driver. Nothing to do with anything that was going on. But he saw a way in which he could help, and he did. And this is the wonderful thing about being in the Philippines. That's a whole other video, is about how wonderful the people are in the Philippines. And boy, that would take some recounting. But back to you. And you're sitting there, you may be in a much better position than I was. Maybe you have a house. Maybe you have a house But the downside of your situation is maybe you have a health condition. Lots of people, more than not, write to me and tell me, ask me, well, what is the situation about health insurance, about hospitals, how good are they, is there a hospital near you, and all questions about health. And they all come from the viewpoint that what happens if everything goes wrong? If you are going to ponder about everything that can go wrong, you'll have a lot to ponder on, okay? But look at it this way. I hope that the title of this video, if Beth will agree, is Risking Everything on the Philippines. Is it worth it? There's only one person that's going to be able to tell you whether it's worth it, and that's you. And everybody else is going to say, what the hell are you going to do there? Now, will you know what you're going to do? No. I didn't know I was going to be doing what I'm doing now. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I had no idea that I was going to get married again. I mean, I'd just come through an amicable enough divorce, but one where I was left with nothing. So it wasn't as if I was looking for that. But I hope to meet someone that's true. But if you look at it, I had a friend when I was in the army. I had a friend that I met at the School of Music, and we both got out of the army. We were in separate regiments, separate bands, but we kept in touch. And Gordon was just a great guy, but he was a little bit timid, not really quite sure about taking chances. Unfortunately, when it comes to taking chances, I'm the biggest fool that you could meet. I tend to take chances. Well, I was in Manchester, and that was where he lived, and I was about to come back to live in London. Well, I went over to see Gordon, and because I was so enthusiastic about coming to London, to me it just seemed like a great place to be. And I said to him, why don't you come with me? And he decided on the spur of the moment. He quit his job, big decisions. He quit his job. He was living with his parents. He quit his job. He explained to his mum and dad that because we were at that age where you still talk to mum and dad, and I can't even remember whether I had a car at the time, but we made it down to London. Now, because of some contacts I had with people that I knew there, we actually got into a communal house, and this was quite a nice house in Golders Green, right on the main road, with lots of bedrooms, and we were able to get into having a room each into this communal house. It didn't take long for Gordon to realise that this wasn't going to work for him, and he was very sorry. He said, it's not working for me. I can't seem to get into it. Now, Gordon was an engineer, so he had a trade, and he'd quit a job, and he was an extremely likeable guy, a dependable one, so he was able to get on the phone and go back to his job. And he went back to his mum and dad, and he went back to his job. Ironically, here you have someone who risked everything for a moment, quickly regretted it, and went back home. I wrote to Gordon a few years later, and I got a letter back from his mum and dad, and they said, sorry to tell you, but our Gordon was lost at sea in the Bay of Biscay, which is, for those of you who don't know, is off the coast of Spain. He went as a merchant seaman, as an engineer, and he was lost overboard in the Bay of Biscay. So he was afraid of losing everything, and he lost everything. So where does that leave you? Back to the Philippines. You know, when you get out here, you just may not like it. I know people who, if they came here, they would hate it. There are people who I would not agree to have as a guest, because they would never stop complaining. I can tell you, because there's a lot to complain about. The friend of a very good friend of ours, Kevin, was thinking about coming out here. The son of our friend Kevin, and Kevin, we never met him. Anthony, we never met him, but he was thinking about coming out here, and I knew that he would not enjoy it. He was a meticulous, efficient man who was called in often to troubleshoot areas which companies were having difficulty with. This is the anecdotal impression I got from my friend Kevin, his father. And he would go in and he would see what was wrong, and he would troubleshoot it and put it right. When he saw us having a tyre changed in the Philippines, he was horrified. He said, "Oh my God, nobody has safety boots on, no helmets, they're not wearing gloves, they're not wearing a mask for blowing out brakes, they're not putting an axle stand under the vehicle that they're changing the wheel on, they're using a hydraulic jack, and there are people in the truck while he's repairing." There were so many things that he was a walking code enforcement officer almost. He wouldn't enjoy that. You have to be willing to change a whole mindset that you have, and one of that mindsets might have to be worrying about whether you're going to die the next minute. We've just come back from a couple of days away in Panglao. Panglao is an island, a fair-sized island. Well, it's a small island off Bohol, which is only a small island anyway. But anyway, Panglao is set just off the coast by Tagbilaran, if you look it up on the map. And it's a small island, and it's surrounded by pristine, beautifully clear water, and so it has lots of dive centres off it, and people go there from all over the world and they do their diving there, and it is a paradise. Well, we went to a place called the Cliffside Resort, which turned out to be a little tiny chip on the edge of the cliff overlooking the ocean, and it was beautiful. And there was only a couple of other families there, 2 maybe 3 other families that were there, and it only had room for 13 rooms. There was only 13 rooms anyway, so it was never that crowded. Well, we went there and we had 2 idyllic days. They served beautiful food. It was close to a McDonald's, so we could still be budget minded, and we had a great time and would love to have had a 3rd night there, but we couldn't. It was going to be too expensive for us. So we came home. When I was on the way home, I said to Beth, I loved it. I loved it. But as always, we're always glad to get home. The Philippines is my home. our home. And that's where we live. People have said to me, so when do you plan to return to America? I have no intention of returning to America. Why? And that's their question. Why not? Because this is my home. I am the most fortunate of men that I have a happy marriage. I'm in with a family that I can live with, and an extended family, my in-laws have accepted me, I accept them, and we work together as a family. Each evening we all have dinner in my mother-in-law's house, and it's a family, and I'm happy here. And as I say, I am most fortunate because I am where I want to be. Will this happen for you? Only you can find out. But if you don't take a chance, how can you ever find out? And the answer is, of course, you cannot. Because if you're not prepared to take a chance, then you've already quit. But on the way home, I said to Beth, you know, as much as I adored being at the Cliffside Resort with that beautiful pool that's on the edge of the cliff and nice rooms, we had the kids with us, so it was fun. As much as I liked that, I said I would only live probably another 2 years if I stayed there with that kind of life. Now, does that mean that there's anything wrong with that kind of life? No, it doesn't, because other people have that kind of life, going from one resort, one place to another. We have our friends Dean and Mickey. That's another foreigner, Filipina marriage, and they go all over the country. In America, they go everywhere. They have a van that is like a cargo van, from my impression, and they fixed it up so that they can live in it, and they can camp wild. Nobody will know that it's a camper. It's not set up as a camper. It doesn't attract attention, and they go everywhere, and they love it. They go from one fiesta to another, to a national park, to a place, visit relatives. And that's the life that they absolutely adore. And they can come back to a lovely home in Fort Myers with a fabulous view, with sunsets that would put any sunset to shame. And that's their life. Dean is also as fortunate as me, is that he's in the place that he wants to be. Happy marriage and a life that he adores. Neither of us got this by not taking chances. As I said, I'd reached a point where for most Americans I already had nothing. I didn't have a home that I could afford. I was living in one room in what amounted to a warehouse, which I'd fixed up as long as when you closed the door all you saw was the room. It looked pretty nice. Hot as hell because there was no air conditioning. But I'd made it as good as it could be. But for most people, I was going to be a runaway. Someone actually accused me. They said, "You ran away." Damn right I ran away. Now, my pensions were enough to live on for me and a partner, however that went. Only modestly, but I could do it. So maybe I was not taking such a big a chance. But I only came out here with a couple of $1,000. Now, much is made of that by our haters. Oh yeah, well, he claims he only had $2,000, and all of that. That's true, but it messes up the narrative for a lot of people, because a lot of people would like to be able to say that Beth married me for my money. Sorry, I've got to laugh when I think about that. I didn't have any money. When I got out here, I quickly made a couple of bad decisions. I gave money away to, where I thought that it might help, and very quickly got through the money that I had. That $2,000 didn't actually last long. I lived outside Angeles for a little while. I had a few tries at finding someone that would be good for me. It never worked out. I never ended up meeting anybody. It was a barren time for me on that. I decided once again, with nothing more than just the gut feeling, that I should be moving. And I moved, and I came to live in Cebu. Well, I came first of all for a very short visit of 5 days, and during that 5 days I met Beth, and that one meeting with Beth was enough for me to say to Beth, for Beth and I to agree that there would be no one else until we had seen how far it could go. And the rest we've been married now in March we will have been married for 7 years. Is it perfect? No, but it's not far off it. It's only a few inches this side of perfect, I can tell you. Because I love where I am. I love the life that we've made. We both worked very hard to create the life that we've had. So, what's the chances of you coming out here and having a successful life? Well, for many of you, you're writing to me and telling me, well, I'll have sold my house. And that usually means that whoever's writing to me may well be coming out here with $100,000 or $200,000 times 50. Work it out. You would be coming out here as an extremely wealthy man. My advice in that case is always, you come out here, keep your mouth shut, your eyes and your ears open for at least a month until you find how things work. So, are you risking everything? Will you be the one to say whether this is so? You may be risking more than money. People often talk, all of the motivational speakers tend to talk about getting out of your comfort zone, about you getting out of your comfort zone. Some of the biggest challenges come from the fact that you are getting out of everyone else's comfort zone. You're rocking the boat. Here you are, I'm assuming that you might well be a retired man or on the verge of retirement. Get lots of letters from friends, subscribers who say, the plan is 2 years time when I retire. So they're looking at 63, 64. Now, are you going to risk everything then? Well, why not? I went 2 or 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago, I went to see my son in the UK, and he thought it would be a great idea to go and live in the UK. He said, Dad, if you came to live in the UK, you would just present yourself at the council offices in London and say, I'm here, I just got off the plane and I have nowhere to live. And they would find you an apartment. Not only would they find you an apartment, they would help you to furnish it, to get vital things that you need, the important, necessary things, in order to have a home. And they would help you to do that. And I remember, bearing in mind I'm 81 now, so back then 79 going on 80, and we were on the underground, the subway, and it was crowded, and a young man who was sitting along where I was hanging onto a strap offered me his seat, and that kind of brought it home. What would I be if I came here? I would be another old man. And I decided that that role was not one which I was ready to play just yet. So I never ever really entertained the idea of going to live back in the UK. Here in the Philippines, I am what I believe I am, and I believe I am someone who has something to offer, something to contribute, and I can do that. I can do that. Now, is everybody going to go, wow, this is great, how can we help you to do that? No, they're not. Is anybody going to go, we're going to stop you from doing what you do because we don't like what you're doing, what you do. You're making the rest of us feel bad or look bad. That's the haters. An important a part of any life that you choose to do, which takes you out of everyone else's comfort zone. Will your family in whatever country that you are living in, will they welcome what you're going to do? Maybe you'll be lucky. Don't be surprised if they're not happy. But Dad, what are you going to do? What about us? What about... Beth was accused by one of my kids of taking their grandfather away from them, when actually they hardly ever communicated to me, and I wasn't a face on even their Facebook. So here's the deal at the end of the day. Terrible phrase that, at the end of the day. I know someone who always keeps saying to me, well, Daddy, at the end of the day, you know. So, but anyway, at the end of the day, you go to bed, you close your eyes to sleep. And when you close your eyes to sleep, you're the only one in there. So, that room, which is the room of your mind, is actually where you live. That's where you live. That's your planning room. That's where you make your plans. That's where you think your thoughts. That's where you foresee the future that could be yours. It's most important. And that room is furnished with your beliefs. And the furnishings, which are your beliefs, are sometimes a bunch of crap. Because the furnishings of your beliefs are based on what you have had rammed down your throat for most of your life. Either your mother, your father, your uncle, your auntie, your best friend, your worst friend, your enemy, your pal, have all told you where you should be. They've all explained to you what their place in your place in their comfort zone is. So can you just kind of not make waves? Could you just keep it like it is? And your answer has to be no, I believe. Will you be happy? Nobody knows. Will you be like Gordon? Will you come here, like my friend Gordon, will you come here and find that you just can't settle and you give up too soon? Will you go away and will you get drowned in the Bay of Biscay? like my dear friend did. Who knows? And no one can know for you. Will you meet someone straight away? Will you go and do something really stupid like meet a 23-year, there you are, 70 something, and you meet somebody 50 years your junior? Tell me that you won't be stupid enough to go and marry her? Who knows how things work out? But only you can say, I have a hand in this. Some of this is down to me. I can try to have another life. And one thing that I can say is that the Philippines will afford you another chance. But only you can say, I'm going to try. I'm going to take the chance. And I wish you well. And if you do get out here and you decide to settle in our area, then come and see us. I look forward to it. We always welcome meeting people who have come. Keep in touch and tell it. And if there's anything I can do to help, I'll be glad to do it. Thanks for looking in, listening to my meandering. Hope it helps. Bye for now.